The kitchen smelled of fried okra and beef stew. Plates clinked, laughter bounced off the walls, and the family gathered around the long table in Macon. Amina sat quietly at the end, helping serve the food like always. She made sure everyone had enough rice, enough chicken, enough of everything. She barely took any for herself. As people ate and chatted, the jokes began. Her aunt, with her usual sharp tongue, chuckled. "Amina, at least help wash the plates tonight. It's the least you can do since you're not working like the rest of us." A few laughed. Then Mumbai, her cousin with the loud laugh and expensive phone, added with a smirk, "You know, some people are just born to depend on others. Not everyone can be useful." Laughter burst around the table again. Even the uncles joined in. Someone said, "Leave Amina alone, she's our decoration. Quiet, pretty, and jobless." Amina looked down at her plate. Her stomach was tight. Suddenly the food tasted like nothing. Her heart pounded, but her face stayed calm. No one noticed the way her fingers clenched around her fork. No one saw how her eyes blinked fast to hold back tears. They didn't see her waking up early to clean, the quiet way she fixed the broken tap last week, or how she helped the younger cousins with their homework. None of it mattered. To them, she was just there. Everyone laughed except her. Amina still remembered the exact moment her world shifted. It was a quiet Thursday afternoon in Lusaka when she got the email. Just one line from HR. "We regret to inform you. Her job at the tech firm was gone. Restructuring," they said. Nothing personal, but it felt personal. That job had been her pride, her escape, her way of saying, "I made it." And now it was gone. She packed her things in silence. Her favorite coffee mug, the little plant on her desk, the USB drive she never lost. No goodbyes, no send-off, just a clean cut. When she arrived back home in Macon, she thought her family would understand. She expected maybe a hug, maybe someone to say, "It's okay, these things happen." But that never came. At first, they acted like they didn't hear the news properly. Then her aunt said, "So no more paycheck, eh? That's tough." The tone was sharp, not soft. And just like that, something shifted. Suddenly, Amina wasn't the career girl anymore. She was the burden. The next morning, her mother handed her a long list of chores. "Since you're free now, help out more," she said flatly. Her uncle started locking the room where they kept important papers. Her opinion, once valued, was now ignored. No one asked her to join family meetings. When decisions were made, she found out loud. And the jokes came. Not in front of strangers, no, just inside the house, where they thought she wouldn't break. Her cousin whispered once, laughing, "At least now you're free to become a full-time maid." Her aunt joked loudly. She should have studied something useful like accounting, not this computer business. Amina smiled tightly, saying nothing. But every night, lying on the thin mattress in the spare room, she felt the weight of failure pressed down on her chest. She started questioning everything. Was she really useless without that job? Had her value been only in the salary she brought home? Some days, she didn't want to get out of bed. But she did. She washed, swept, cooked, smiled, like she was fine. But deep inside, something cracked. What hurt most wasn't the job loss. It was how quickly love turned cold. How fast her family's kindness faded when she had nothing to give. And how, in her lowest moment, the people she thought would hold her up were the first to push her down. Amina had cried enough. One morning, as the sun poured through the window and the sound of pots clanged from the kitchen, she sat on the edge of her bed and decided, if no one would believe in her, she'd believe in herself. No more pity. No more waiting to be seen. She was done playing the quiet, invisible girl. That same day, while the rest of the house thought she was just scrolling on her phone as usual, Amina was researching. Tutorials, YouTube videos, freelancing sites, how to write a killer portfolio, how to attract international clients, how to get paid securely in Zambia without anyone knowing. She created a new identity, not fake, just hidden. She used her middle name and a different email. She didn't want her family or anyone nearby to know. It wasn't shame. It was strategy. This was her secret world, her quiet rebellion. Late at night, while everyone else slept, Amina designed logos, websites, social media flyers. Anything clients asked for, she delivered. She worked under a small solar lamp, eyes burning, hands stiff from the long hours. Sometimes she'd get paid just $15, sometimes $100. But every dollar felt like gold. She opened a secret mobile wallet, far from the ones the family knew about. Each time she saw the balance go up, her heart beat a little faster. Quiet pride. Quiet power. At first, it was slow. Some clients ghosted her. Some gave her poor ratings for no reason. She doubted herself 100 times. But she kept going. Every bad day made her sharper. Every rude email made her tougher. She learned how to negotiate, how to say no with confidence, how to charge what her work was truly worth. Then things began to change. One client referred another, then another. Soon, Amina was fully booked. Her design style stood out, clean, bold, modern. She started getting messages like, "You're incredibly talented. Are you available for ongoing work?" One night, She earned more in a single project than she used to earn in a whole month at her old job. She looked at the screen, eyes wide, then let out a soft laugh, not loud enough for anyone to hear. Still, she said nothing to her family. Let them think she was just lounging around. Let them mock. She had her work, her clients, her income, and her quiet fire. What they didn't know was that while they laughed at the jobless girl, she was building something bigger than any of them could imagine. Not for applause, not for revenge, but for herself. Silently, steadily, Amina was rising. The news came quietly one evening. Her father walked into the house looking older than usual, his shoulders slumped, his face tired. He didn't speak much during dinner. Amina noticed he barely touched his food. Later, she overheard him speaking to her mother in a low voice. "The shop is sinking," he said. "I can't pay the suppliers. We're behind on rent. If something doesn't change soon, I'll have to shut it down." Amina's heart ached. That little grocery shop in Bala was more than a business. It was her father's pride. He had built it from scratch, starting with a single shelf and a dream. He woke up every day at 5 a.m. to open it, rain or shine. It wasn't just income. It was him. But nobody in the family had any money to help. Her uncles were already struggling. Her mother stayed silent. Her aunt only sighed and said, "We should pray." And while everyone nodded in agreement, Amina quietly slipped into her room, locked the door, and opened her mobile wallet. She stared at the balance. It was just enough. Her finger hovered over the send button. Her heart raced. This wasn't a small gift. This was a rescue. But she didn't need recognition. She just needed to help him stand again. So she sent the money through an anonymous option untraceable to her. The next morning, her father burst through the door, eyes wide with disbelief. "A miracle has happened," he shouted. "Someone has sent money. Enough to clear the debts. Enough to restock the shop." His voice cracked as he spoke. "I don't know who it was. No name. Just sent." Her mother clapped her hands in joy. "God answers prayers," she whispered. Everyone gathered in the living room. There was laughter, smiles, relief. Her father lifted his hands and thanked God loudly, eyes shining with tears. Amina stood at the edge of the kitchen, wiping a plate, her back turned, hiding her own tears. No one looked at her. No one thought she could have done it. Why would they? To them, she was still the girl with no job, the one who just stays home. And yet, in that moment, Amina felt full, not from praise but from purpose. She had saved her father's dream, not with noise, not with boasting, but with quiet strength. She smiled to herself, her hands still busy with the dishes, while her father danced with joy in the living room. Let them believe it was heaven. Let them thank the skies. Only she knew the truth, that the miracle they were celebrating had come from the very person they had written off. Mumbai had always been loud, confident, and a little too proud. She talked like the world owed her something. When she got accepted into a university abroad, the whole house celebrated. Her aunt cooked chicken stew, music played, and Mumbai danced like she was already in Europe. Everyone praised her. "She's going to make this family proud," they said. Not everyone can get into a school like that. But behind the happy faces, there was a problem: money. Her uncle had just fallen seriously sick, and the hospital bills were draining the family. There was no way they could afford international tuition, let alone flights and living costs. Everyone knew it, but no one said it out loud. One night, Amina overheard a quiet conversation in the hallway. Mumbai's mother was crying. Her uncle said weakly, "We can't do it. Let her defer." But Mumbai was stubborn. "I have to go," she said. "I've worked too hard to miss this." Amina lay in bed that night staring at the ceiling. Mumbai had never been kind to her, always quick with insults, quick to call her lazy or useless. Just last week, she had joked to a friend on the phone, "Amina's like furniture. Always there, never helpful." And yet, Amina couldn't stop thinking about her, about the dream that might disappear, about the opportunity that might never come again. She remembered how it had felt when her own dream died the day she lost her job, that sharp pain in her chest. She wouldn't wish that on anyone. The next morning, Amina opened her mobile wallet. It was her biggest withdrawal yet. Tuition, visa fees, housing deposit, all of it. She transferred the money through a friend abroad who owed her a favor. It was clean, untraceable. 2 days later, her uncle received a message. "Someone has cleared the fees," he said, shocked. "Fully paid. No name." The house was filled with joy. Her aunt cried tears of happiness. Mumbai screamed and jumped around, hugging everyone except Amina. That evening, Amina sat quietly in the corner while Mumbai told the story over and over. "My father made a big sacrifice for me," she said proudly. "He didn't even tell me he had the money. That's what real parents do." Everyone clapped. Her aunt beamed with pride. "We always knew Mumbai was meant for greatness." Amina just smiled and stood up to clear the plates. No one noticed. No one thanked her. Mumbai still walked past her like she didn't exist. But Amina didn't care. She didn't do it for applause. She did it because she knew the power of second chances. Because even if Mumbai never saw her, Amina saw Mumbai. And that was enough. Quietly, the jobless one had paid for a dream. And no one would ever know. It was a sunny afternoon when the landlord came by. He stood at the gate, smiling wide, holding a receipt book and a plastic bag full of fresh vegetables, his little thank you gift. Amina had just finished hanging clothes on the line when she spotted him. "Ah, Amina," he said warmly. "Thank you again for the payment. A full year in advance. That's no small thing. I've never had a tenant so reliable." Amina froze for a second. Her eyes flicked toward the kitchen window. Too late. Her mother was standing there, a dish towel in her hand, eyebrows already raised. "What payment is he talking about?" her mother asked, stepping outside, confused. The landlord, still cheerful and unaware, added, "She cleared the whole rent for the year last week." I was shocked, honestly. We landlords pray for tenants like her. Her mother turned to her slowly. Amina forced a quick smile. Her heart was thudding, but her face stayed calm. "Oh, it wasn't that much," she said lightly. "I had a small freelance job. Just wanted to help. No big deal." Her mother blinked. "Freelance job?" "Yeah," Amina said, trying to laugh it off. One of those online things. It came through. I thought, why not just pay it off and avoid the stress? Her mother looked at her closely, like she was trying to read something on Amina's face that wasn't being said. "I didn't even know you were working again," she said, softer. Amina shrugged, picking up the basket of laundry. "It's not stable. Just a few gigs. Sometimes it pays, sometimes it doesn't. I didn't want to talk about it until it's something real." Her mother nodded slowly, still processing. She didn't push further. But her eyes lingered on Amina a little longer than usual that day. Inside, Amina felt like the walls were closing in. She hadn't meant for anyone to find out. She had worked so hard in the dark, hiding her hustle, her earnings, her growth. Not because she was ashamed, but because she wasn't ready for the noise, the questions, the sudden attention. She liked her quiet power, her private wins. She wasn't sure what would happen if her family knew the truth, that she was no longer broke, no longer helpless. That she had become something while they weren't looking. That night, as she folded clothes in her room, she heard her mother talking on the phone to someone. "Yes, Amina," her mother said. "She says she's doing small jobs online. I don't know, but she paid the rent, the full year." There was a pause, then softly, "Maybe we were wrong about her." Amina sat on the edge of her bed, smiling faintly. The secret had slipped just a little, but the world hadn't ended. Maybe, just maybe, the truth was starting to breathe. The wedding was beautiful. Music filled the air. Children ran around in colorful clothes, and women in bright chitenjas laughed and posed for pictures. Amina sat quietly under the tent, her hands folded in her lap, watching the joy around her. She wore a simple dress, her hair neatly tied back. She didn't like attention, never had. People bustled past her with plates of food and loud greeting. No one really stopped to talk to her, and she was used to that now. She knew how to smile politely, nod quietly, and fade into the background. It had become her role. But then, during one loud conversation near the buffet table, her uncle's voice rang out above the music. He was holding a plate of nyama choma, already tipsy, and surrounded by a small group of laughing relatives. At least some of our girls went to university and got jobs," he said, grinning. "Not like Amina, always at home, eating and relaxing. The family burden, eh?" The group burst out laughing. Even Mumbai giggled, sipping soda with a hand over her mouth. Amina heard every word. She didn't move. Her face stayed still, her eyes dry, but inside something burned. Her chest tightened. Her heart thudded like a drum. But still she stayed calm. She didn't speak. She just kept her eyes on the plate in front of her. They didn't know. They didn't know she was the one paying the rent. The one who saved the shop. The one who paid for Mumbai's dream while being mocked by the same mouth she fed. They didn't know the sacrifices, the sleepless nights, the hustle behind her silence. And yet they laughed. Amina took a slow breath, pressing her hands together to steady herself. She blinked once, twice, clearing the glassiness in her eyes before anyone could notice. She told herself, "Don't cry here." Not in front of them. She stood up quietly, walked away from the tent, and stood under a tree by herself. The music was softer there, the laughter more distant. She looked up at the sky and whispered in her heart, "You don't have to explain anything. One day they'll see." It wasn't anger anymore. It was something stronger. A vow. A quiet promise to herself. She would never argue, never shout, never beg to be seen. She would let her actions speak. Let her wins roar louder than their laughter. They could call her a burden today, but one day they'd wish they had treated her better. And when that day came, Amina wouldn't need to say a word. It started with missing money. A small envelope that had been tucked into a drawer in the living room, cash meant for groceries. When no one could find it, the questions began. Then came the whispers, the side glances, and then her aunt said it out loud. I'm not pointing fingers, she said, folding her arms. But some people in this house don't contribute anything. They just stay home and eat. Maybe they thought they were entitled to a little extra. Amina stood by the sink, wiping her hands on a towel. She already knew what was coming. Just say her name, Mumbai muttered. Let's not pretend. Her uncle nodded. Amina, be honest. You're the only one without a job. If you needed something, you could have just asked. The room was quiet, heavy. All eyes turned to her, accusing, doubting. Amina's fingers tightened around the towel. Her mouth was dry, her throat burning. She'd held her tongue for months, when they mocked her, when they ignored her, when they laughed behind her back. But this was the final straw. She walked slowly to her room. No one stopped her. They thought she was ashamed. But when she returned, she was holding a folder. She placed it on the table and opened it without a word. One by one, she laid them out, printouts of money transfers, screenshots of anonymous donations, freelance payments, mobile wallet statement. This, she said quietly, her voice steady, was me. She pointed to the receipt from the landlord. Rent, paid in full for the year. Another document. This is from the payment I made to save Dad's shop in Bala. She slid a university invoice across the table. And this is Mumbai's tuition. The money that came through mysteriously? It was me. Every kwacha. Silence. Her aunt's mouth fell open. Mumbai blinked, her face pale. Her uncle shifted in his chair. Her mother just stared, hands covering her mouth. Amina stood there, calm but shaking slightly. You thought I was useless, that I sat around doing nothing. But while you were laughing at me, I was working. Every night. Every hour. In silence. She looked around the room. I didn't say anything because I didn't do it for praise. But now you've accused me of stealing, and I won't stay silent anymore. The room felt frozen. No one spoke. No one moved. Amina took a deep breath and stepped back, her eyes filled with tears, not from sadness but relief. She had carried the weight alone for so long. Now they knew, and for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel invisible. A few months after everything came out, Amina packed her things into 2 small suitcases and left. No drama, no long goodbyes, just a quiet morning, a bus ticket in her hand, and a heart full of peace. She was moving to Lusaka, back to the city where her story had once crumbled. But this time, she was returning on her own terms. She rented a small apartment and set up a home office with just a desk, her laptop, and a big whiteboard filled with ideas. No distractions, no noise, just focus. She poured her savings into a startup she had been planning for over a year, a digital design and branding agency for small businesses across Africa. She called it Rika Studio. Let's create in her mother tongue. In the beginning, she worked 14-hour days. Coffee and silence were her best friends. But slowly, clients came. Word spread. Her work spoke for itself, clean, smart, bold designs that helped brands shine. Within a year, she had a team of 5, then 10. She opened a second office in Ndola to support growing demand. International contracts started landing in her inbox. People she once chased for work were now chasing her. One morning, while reviewing a pitch deck, her phone buzzed. It was a text from her aunt. Hi Amina. Hope you're well. I was wondering, do you think you could assist me with a small loan? Just something to hold me until next month. Also, I heard about your company. Proud of you. Truly. Amina stared at the message for a moment. Not long ago, this same aunt had called her a burden in front of the whole family. Now she was asking for help, politely. Another message came in, this time from Mumbai. Hey cuz, congrats on the Ndola office. I saw it on LinkedIn. It looks amazing. We should catch up soon, smiley face. Even her uncles began to forward business proposals, hoping she'd look them over. Her mother's tone had changed too, softer, more careful. She now called just to check in. Are you eating? Are you sleeping enough? You've done so well, my daughter. We're all proud. Amina never threw it in their faces. She never said, now you see me? Now you respect me? No, she simply smiled and kept working. She replied kindly, sent money quietly when she could, and helped where it made sense, but never forgot the silence that once met her struggles. What they once called wasting time on the laptop had built her an empire. What they once mocked had fed them. The roles had changed. She was no longer the forgotten girl in the corner of the kitchen. She was now the one they turned to, not with insults, but with respect. And she had done it all without shouting, just with grace and grit. The family event was in full swing. Laughter, loud music, the smell of grilled meat floating in the air. Relatives danced, gossiped, and posed for pictures in their bright outfit. Everyone was there, dressed to impress. Then, a sleek black car pulled up at the gate. A chauffeur stepped out and opened the door. Heads turned. Conversations paused. And out stepped Amina. She wore a deep green designer dress, simple, elegant, powerful. The kind of dress that didn't shout wealth but whispered it confidently. It had been a gift from one of the international firms she now partnered with. A quiet thank you for her brilliant campaign design. On her wrist, A watch that cost more than some of her cousin's annual salary. Subtle, tasteful, timeless. She walked slowly, smiling gently at the shocked faces around her. Her aunt's mouth hung open. Mumbai blinked like she wasn't sure if it was really her. Even her uncles stood still, holding half-empty drinks midair. No one said a word at first. Amina didn't explain a thing. She didn't need to. Her presence spoke louder than any speech ever could. She greeted everyone kindly, hugged her mother softly, then took a seat near the front. The same girl they once mocked for being useless. Now the room bent slightly in her direction, watching, whispering. That day, she didn't need to say, "I told you so." She just smiled. And that smile was her final word.